What's up, everybody? Little Onorato Company Extra on Newschannel 13's Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, joined by Jonathan Scott, former offensive lineman in the NFL and a national champ at Texas. But that's not why we're talking to him today. We're talking to Jonathan because everybody now, right, Jonathan, needs a little bit of financial advice, but I know you are keyed in on how professional athletes can really take care of their money. So we'll get into it here with the new book that's coming out called The Winning Playbook that you and Rob Welsh have put together. Man, what did you learn from your pro playing days about taking care of money? And maybe some of your teammates, or maybe you in some instances, you weren't exactly as careful as you should have been.
Well, for me, it's crazy you say that because, if you kind of look at the general way of doing things, I always did everything right. I participated in 401k, saved my money, didn't buy the big house just because I had the big check. But I think the biggest thing that my takeaway from the NFL when it came to finances is that everyone doesn't necessarily have the same paycheck, right? 16% of the salary cap goes to just one player, and that's the quarterback. And so, it was one of those things is understanding that I could be able to buy certain things, but I couldn't afford certain things. And it was just a constant understanding of, and you kind of know this innately. It's like, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And, with the winning playbook, there's different strategies, different tools that you can utilize to be able to, build your portfolio for future earnings, as well as protection for assets down the line. So this book is kind of, all about empowerment, and not just say, hey, these are the things out there. How do you actually implement them in strategy and utilize them to create generational wealth?
Now, somebody like Aaron Rodgers might have difficulty spending $50 million in a year, or Kyler Murray, who's going to make 46, and the list goes on, as you said, of NFL quarterbacks. And there are probably some people listening to this thinking, okay, I hear him say things I can buy but maybe not afford. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
Right,
How do you still, within this book, explain to people who have a considerable amount of money that you can still have some fun with it, but in a responsible way? What's behind that?
So, that's an outstanding question because we talk about that in this strategy, right? So there's ways that even our firm on the business side of things is actually can show and attest how you can be able to not only um, make your money, you can keep it. So we have strategies that allow us to, we have strategies like being able to, if you're going to make $300 million or $100 million, there's actually ways that you can actually keep that money, right? And be able to avoid, not evade, but avoid tax. There's certain things, there's a little acronym we use other people's money, right? Some people may think traditional loans, but there's tools like index universal life policies. People can even look this up. Jim Harbaugh, Dabo Sweeney, he used cash value life policies and leverage that policy to be able to get tax-free income, because at the end of the day, loans are not taxable. So there's I never say don't buy that house. I never say don't, for young guys, don't buy that jewelry, don't buy that car. There's actually ways that you can be able to get those things and not have to use your own money. And that's for anyone who's making just $300,000 a year or making $500 million over the course of 10 years. So it's applicable for anyone.
Yeah, I was just going to say that sounds like it applies to even everyday people
Exactly.
like me to a certain degree. What was the process like for you to write this book? I know you obviously are in another kind of half of your career here, if you will, or a third or a quarter, depending upon how many directions you want to go, because now you're really an author as well, obviously. What was this process like for you and Rob to collaborate on a book? And did you know earlier on in life that you had a book in you at some point?
And it's interesting you say that because it's about discovery, right? Discovery of oneself, and it's also transformational, right? Being able to say, NFL did it was an absolutely great experience,
Yeah.
right? But I have a realist in me knowing that I can't play football forever, ever, no. But I'm an educated man. I have a degree, and I have high aspirations. And kind of one of the things, kind of off subject but kind of on subject, is that I didn't have just I didn't have a plan B, right? And what I mean by that is that um playing professional football was part of the plan,
Hmm.
right? But not the only thing in the plan. And so it was just one of those things that um, I just that was just the check off the bucket list. And I like to tell young guys that I speak to and mentor is that think of yourself as a diamond, right? In order for a diamond to shine, it has to have many facets, and those different facets play a big part in the overall brilliance that you exude. So, playing NFL was just one part of it, and I have so many more facets to shine.
And you're a smart guy. It doesn't sound like you're going to have to sell your national championship ring at
Yeah.
any point soon. I certainly hope not. I'll ask. I want to ask you about that experience here too, as
Yeah.
we continue to talk about the book, the Winning Playbook, out in the middle of August. Jonathan Scott and Rob Welsh both collaborating to put this book together, as you said, a way to empower professional athletes as they kind of find their way through. What is it that makes pro athletes, when you hear like the Antoine Walker stories and you're like, how does this guy make more than $100 million and yet he's filing for bankruptcy at some point? Where do athletes go wrong? What path are they going down that all of a sudden that money that to me sounds like, ooh, it should last forever, it doesn't?
One thing that I definitely do, personally, is that not to criticize,
Yeah.
because a lot of times, excuse me, the thing is that maybe he was misinformed. There's a lot of misinformation, and one of the things I've learned from one of my mentors is that in order to make solid, sound decisions in life, right, you need to have your own personal board of directors. What do I mean by that, right? You don't, a lot of people, the fallacy is like you get people you trust, right?
Mhm.
There's a difference between trust in man and trust in God, but that's a different story, right? But the thing that I would say is that you wouldn't have your your trainer be your heart surgeon, right? So a lot of times is that you have to pick those different board of directors that can be advisory, can play that advisory role. So if you have someone in business, you have business ventures, you have someone on the advisory side that can talk to you about business. When you have you're dealing with money, have someone on the advisory side to tell you about money, how it grows, how it how it's taxed, all those different things. You have someone that's your cardiologist. You have someone who's is proficient in heart procedures and heart health, right? So it's all about having your own personal board of directors that can advise you all the different nuances that's in your life. And it's just not just finances. It's so many different things. And so what happens is it helps you navigate the treacherous terrain that is the world. And so I think what happened in situations like that is that he had the trust, the loyalty to certain people who weren't necessarily qualified in business,
Yep.
and it was just probably misinformation. And then he probably realized it, but he has that testimony to be able to tell the next generation.
And let's be real. If I were to sign a pro contract of sizable amounts of money, or if I were to win the $1.1 billion Mega Millions jackpot, that
Right.
all of a sudden there'd be people coming out of the woodwork saying how well we've known each other for years and we're boys. And hey, can you help me with this project? Like, I get how pro athletes could kind of run into that as an issue, and obviously it starts to dive into what you're making. You probably feel a debt, something of a debt to a lot of people,
Right.
that really you probably shouldn't.
It's understandable because
Yep.
like a lot of players, they're very gracious that it was so many people that got them to that pinnacle in
Yep.
their career, in their athletic career. And it's just a good heart in a lot of people that just want to give, help, right? But unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't see the ruin that can take place when you got everybody just wanting to take a piece. And before you know it, you're 60% of your income is going out.
Yeah.
And it's hard to build a nest egg, if you will, doing those methods.
Yeah, I love to hear the stories. I think it was Gronk the first I heard of it, and I know Saquon Barkley is trying to pull it off as well, that none of the game checks are touched. They're using all endorsements. Now that's next level type of athlete, a guy who's going to get all those endorsements. When you were at Texas, Jonathan, what would have been your NIL go-to? Was there a spot in Austin, or so where you frequented all the time? They knew your name, or they knew the O-line well enough where you're like, you could hit them up for an NIL deal?
I would say jokingly, it was probably Pluckers. It was a chicken wing spot. We were definitely there, especially the us and all the former fellow offensive linemen. It would probably be Pluckers. Oh man, it's so many different places. But I know Dick's Sporting Goods. We were always getting love from Dick's Sporting Goods and things like that. But
Okay.
when you talk about NIL, that's the new hot topic. One of the biggest things that's probably not mentioned is that now you're getting a 17-year-old, 16-year-old kid, young man, getting involved in commerce and
Yep.
understanding financial obligations, and that can be tough. And so I definitely understand, and I commend the rulings to allow young people to get paid off their likeness, because they bring in millions, even billions of dollars
Yep.
to the institution, which is college football. So I think what happens is that there's some programs that even I am doing that help inform young guys. Not saying don't do this, don't do that, but be aware of what questions to ask. Understanding contracts. You don't have to be proficient or even an expert, if you will, in that, but know that, hey, this is not my lane. I need to
Right.
find proper help. And
Yep.
maybe that's a trusted attorney. That's the biggest thing. And to say, hey, what are my expectations, and understanding those expectations through a contractual agreement. That would be probably the biggest thing to kind of convey to young athletes.
What would your quarterback Vince Young have made in NIL?
Anything and everything. He was the man. It could have been. I mean, he could have been a. He could have. I'm pretty
We're
sure
talking
he
about Bryce.
NIL and
Yeah, like Bryce Young's
Ferrari.
going to make $1 million at Alabama. I mean, BY
Yeah,
would
I
have done
mean,
okay.
he was an absolute sensation. I'm pretty sure any business could be able to seek the advantage of Vince Young. I mean, the man. I mean, he speaks for himself.
So
Um,
you win the
he would have a lot
title.
of opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah. You win the title at the Rose Bowl over USC as a member of that
Yeah.
Texas Longhorn team. What do you remember about the game-winning touchdown?
Oh man, it's crazy. Can I tell a quick story?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing that I remember most, right? Yes, I remember. I remember how it felt to be on that field and win with my teammates. But the most memorable moment was after the game. I got a chance to sit in a Beverly Hills hotel where we were staying. I can't remember the specific hotel, but it was in Beverly Hills. After that, I got to sit down and I had a cigar with my dad. and that was the coolest thing. So when I saw Joe Burrow when he won the national
Yeah.
championship at LSU, and I saw him with that cigar, I was like, I know exactly how you feel. That was the most memorable part because at that moment, my father, he's passed away, but he was such inspiration and just a key individual in my growth and in my development as a human being. So being able to share that moment and be accepted as, I felt like he was accepting me as a man.
Yeah.
It was like a rite of passage. And then on top of that, winning a national championship. Oh man, it was it's an experience that was like no other.
It's a great story, man. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
Um, College realignment. What's up with this? What are your thoughts on it? A guy who obviously at Texas is a Big 12 guy. Um,
Yeah.
what's your view on where we're headed and what
Mhm.
it maybe means for college athletics? Can it still kind of survive and thrive with a power two, or even just no real conference alignment at all if we look way down the road?
Yeah, you know what? I have theories. I have theories. Doesn't necessarily mean they're true, but I think what is happening is you're seeing a shift in where competition really lies.
Mm-hmm.
Does it lie with a state? Does it lie with a conference? And it's showing that there's a big commerce component that is influencing is visibility, right? Because I mean, Texas has just as much money as any university
Yep.
in the country, but for some reason, the attraction is maybe the talent in Texas, the attraction is going elsewhere.
Mm.
So I think it's going to be a shift, definitely a paradigm shift in what is considered, the most um, advantageous, if you will, or medium when it comes to sports, but when it comes to college football. But it's interesting. One thing I can definitely say, college football is going to continue to thrive. It is going. I believe that with this NIL, it's going to be able to kind of level the playing
Uh-huh.
field and attract players. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, you can start seeing. I mean, Cincinnati has a great program, right? You're going to start seeing people wanting to go to, like a Jackson State. You're going to start seeing people want to go there because um, there's opportunities that allow them to shine. Because let's be honest, if you're going to Alabama, it's only 11 people that can be on the field at a time,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
so that's a very very low percentage of being able to play and get quality reps and showcase your skills to get to the next level. So I'm excited to see where it is, where it's going to go. Obviously, if Texas is dipping their hat in the SEC, that might mean something because, like I said, we're follow the money.
Yeah. Yeah, you said it, man. Right. If I'm a college football prospect,
Hmm.
um, and I could go to Bama, but we're talking about playing time and
Hmm.
money that I have the potential to make, right? So if I'm just going to share time at Bama, but I'm a full-time starter somewhere else, even like a Missouri, maybe that plays a factor into what kids decide to do because of
Exactly.
NIL. Yeah, it's a really good point.
And I tell guys all the time, don't get me wrong, I had a amazing experience at University of Texas, but I tell my guys follow that gut spirit because I mean, at the end of the day, if everything checks the list when it comes to education, location,
Hmm.
uh, different colleges and programs that they may provide. If all those checks are checks, follow your gut, and then on top of that, if it didn't work out, when I played, if you try to transfer to another Division One,
Sure.
1A school, you got to wait out a year.
Yep.
Here, you can get going immediately, and it's interesting because you can see that loyalty with like Rattler going to USC with Lincoln Riley. So um, It's going to be interesting. It's kind of like the NFL this year, right?
Yes.
There's so many different people and different players. I don't truly know who's going to be the reigning king at the end of the season. But that's the exciting part, right? We don't know. It's not going to be just like, oh, okay, here you go, Patriots going to win again. Oh, okay, you don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, it could be Jacksonville. It could be the Browns. Who knows? We don't know. So that's the exciting part of it, the unknown.
Here's one thing I know, and what I learned from this conversation: the winning playbook, while I'm sure it is geared towards professional athletes maintaining their wealth, there are principles within this book that would
Mhm.
apply to everybody in their financial strategies. The winning playbook out in the middle of August with Jonathan R. Scott and Rob Welch. Look for it. And Jonathan, we appreciate you taking the time with us here on Onorato and Company, the NBC in Albany, New York, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to share my experience and share my knowledge.